The member from Meeker, Representative Urdahl.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. One more time, a bonding bill speech. Oh, wait, that was last night and I never gave it. You know, actually, after our basic disaster last night, I decided that this isn't really retirement, it's more an escape. So, the time has come. A speech 22 years in the making. I decided that I wanted to be a legislator when I was 17 years old. I well remember the first time I revealed that goal. I was on a first date with a young lady. We were waiting at a stoplight in downtown Litchfield when I announced my intention to her. It was our last date. Now, fortunately, I explained what my future intentions were and what life might be like to a young lady named Karen, who's up here. And she still said yes. You know, I wish my mother could have lived to have seen me elected. A lot of my love for history came from her. Her family were very involved in the early history of Meeker County and the state of Minnesota. They were there in the Indian War of 1862. So my mother would have appreciated this, but I always had to tell her, I'm only half as good as you think I am. I went to St. Cloud State, became involved in student government, worked on the staff of Congressman John Zwak, left college to become a teacher. But the desire to serve here was always with me. Teaching at New London Spicer, I remained involved in politics at a volunteer level. It led to many vivid experiences. I convinced John Denver to speak at a Republican event. I met Ronald Reagan. I asked a young man to take a picture of me shaking hands with Ronald Reagan. I've got that picture. It's of two hands. The guy was from Iowa. What can I? I actually got to be near Richard Nixon at the 1972 Republican National Convention. So I watched history being made. And while I did that, I was trying to explain history to my students. To me, history was a story, and I was telling it. I wanted them to learn, and I engaged my students to keep them interested. I even wrote a history rap, which for the first time I'm going to reveal today. The names used are of the people that I worked with and taught with. I'm a young DU with a story to tell about U.S. history that you know so well. This course used to be just 1.5 years. The Airsman says, looky here, these kids ain't learning what they need to know. Teach full year and they'll get mo. So we teach about peace, we teach about war, the people that died, the clothes they wore. But you got to move fast, don't talk or pester, because you got young DU just one semester. Then some will get drier and some will get frisky. You better move faster, it's going to be risky. So do those worksheets, watch them tapes, because from U.S. history, there ain't no escape. I came here 22 years ago after losing 2 general elections in a primary. I should have won in 1994, but a bipartisan legislative cabal had agreed to help each other out if challenged on a particular issue. Now, my campaign made an attack on that issue, and a Republican House member, I forget who it was, but I think he might be the only Republican here with more years of service than me, wrote a letter to the editor against me. I lost by 170 votes. Not, actually, in retrospect, it wasn't such a bad thing to lose then and then win later. Once elected, my goal was not to move on to higher office or even to rise to a leadership position in my caucus. What I wanted to do was serve the people. That was what I focused my energy on. I've spent 10 years in the majority, 12 in the minority. I was able to get some things done. I believe students are safer in Minnesota because of my lockdown bill. I started the legislation for livestock tax credits. I hope that knowledge of civics will be enhanced due to my civics education requirements. My bill as chair of the Legacy Committee started the restoration of our Capitol, an achievement of which I am most proud. A large share of whatever legacy I leave has to do with capital investment. Yes, bonding. I traveled the state looking at projects for 20 years. It was a very rewarding experience. I survived meatless lasagna in Wilmer and riding in the back of the bus with my good friend, Representative Leon Lilly. What made this job meaningful were the people that I served with. I became convinced that it was our responsibility as legislators to maintain the property owned by the state. That mantra has become a crusade. I'm actually contemplating a special license plate. No, you'd like this one, Frank. 007 ING. What would that be, Leon? 007 ING? Bonding? Come on. My LAs started with Dave Easterday, followed by many others, including Bobby Patrick VI and Stephen Rubis. I like to think I trained them. The record holder in years of service as my LA is Jennifer Goblish. The day I met her, I said, "You have one major task, make me look good." It's been a challenge for her. And I'm grateful. She's been a wonderful LA. A special thank you has to be reserved for the staff that worked with me when I chaired or was lead of bonding. Gavin Hansen, Harry Miracle, Chelsea Axelson were faced with a special task, keeping me in line. Now, Harry once spied me back in the retiring room, talking to the bonding chair then, DFLer Alice Hausman. And I don't know why. I mean, he was over here, he looked, he saw me in the back, and he stands in the doorway, he goes, and so I come out, and we journey right on up to the SOB, to Kurt Dowd's office. They sit me down. They turn the lamp on me. And they ask, "What were you saying to Alice?" I think we were talking about Como Park. I don't know. Actually, why were they worried? You see, that at that particular time, I was having some tooth problems. I was on Vicodin. They were really worried about what the Vicodin might do to me. So I've had the privilege of working with many speakers of the House. Steve Swigum, Margaret Anderson Kelleher, Paul Thiessen, Kurt Zellers, Kurt Dowd, Melissa Hortman. I'd like to thank them all for the opportunities that they provided to me. Thank you, Speaker Hortman. You've been a friend. Phoo, we almost made it. Yeah, it was close. The relationships I've developed here are precious to me. Most everyone I served with, I value. I need to highlight some of my closest friends. First, two from the past. Representative Bud Heidgerken, and Representative Matt Dean. Bud formed the Nutrition Commission with me. Our offices were next to each other. Each night for 6 years, I'd walk by, and I'd stick my head in Bud's office, and I'd say, "Hey, Bud, did we save the state today?" And he'd say, "Not today, maybe tomorrow." Now, Matt just kept getting me into trouble. He once called an internationally famous author a pencil-necked weasel. When the press reported on it, they didn't credit Matt Dean. It was Dean Urdahl. I mean, I saw a cartoon from Norway, and it's got somebody, it's a beach scene, and someone is kicking sand in the face of this author, and it says on him, Dean Urdahl. In the spirit of bipartisanship once, I invited Frank Hornstein, Keith Ellison, to Litchfield. And what did we tour? No, First District. I think we went by the Opera House, but we toured First District. The dairy processor that was in the bill that didn't quite make it last night. But it is the first time and probably the only time in Litchfield history when a Jew, a Muslim, and a Christian walked together down the streets of Litchfield. Paul Anderson, Greg Davids, John Petersburg, Mary Franzen were devoted Nutrition Commission members and became my dearest friends. I will miss my daily contact with them, but without Paul, my nutrition world will expand beyond chicken wings. Now, you may find this hard to believe, but Mary Franzen had some troubled times early in her career. I tried to advise and concluded with, just think about what I would do in those situations. For the next year, she wore a wristband to remind herself, WWDD, what would Dean do? It was a little risky. Now, I'm sorry, but I need to digress, get a little serious here, maybe preach a little bit. Because, I still have a forum today that I'm not going to have much longer, and just maybe some of the things that I say, somebody will remember. I could literally count on one hand the number of bad days that I had here in my first 10 years. This place was fun. It's changed. When I was elected, I decided that 3 things should guide my vote. The 3 C's: my conscience, my constituents, and my caucus. I'm sorry, but in too many cases now, from both sides, we only have 1 C, and that's the caucus. We don't need to think. We'll be told what to do. Partisanship has grown as cooperation has declined. I urge you to be statesmen and not politicians. I am a center-right conservative. That's not always been good enough for my fellow Republicans. I was challenged by Republicans in some way 8 of the 12 times that I sought office. I won every time. I am one of the last Eisenhower Republicans. I believe in human rights, equality, strong public education, a strong transportation system, and taking care of our infrastructure. I came here with only one goal: to represent my people to the best of my ability. There are those in or on the fringes of my party who are not Republicans. They are attempting to take over my party and mold it into something else, something that never was, and they are the true rhinos. I believe that we should have a March primary to preclude the capture of both parties from extremist elements. Now, I've been criticized by some for my work on infrastructure. Last year, after a bonding bill passed, a high-level Senate Republican staffer called me a traitor, and then really went low and referred to me as a Democrat. Do you know what really offended me? He skipped right over Rhino. In part, I do what I do to save the Republican Party from thinking like his. You know, Congressman Davy Crockett from Tennessee had as his motto, be sure you're right, and then go ahead. And that's what I've tried to do. You know, it's not been easy being a bonding chair, being a bonding lead. I've been called a liar, my motives and methods questioned and castigated. The job I do is no longer for people like me. I believe that the caucus could be better served by someone less passionate about our infrastructure, someone less committed and more agreeable. I stand now and will continue to stand on what formed the foundation of the Republican Party, what the party really is. To my Democrat friends, I'm not even going to try to help you. I have two sons that work in or around the Capitol. One of them right in the front here, my media writer. Another son lives in a nearby suburb. I used to joke that I would sometime leave office to spend less time with my family. Well, that's not true. I want to spend more time with my sons' families. I want to watch my grandchildren and be more involved with them. This afternoon, I'm going to a baseball game and watch two grandsons play. My wife, Karen, has stuck with me through ups and downs and all the travails of life. She ran my campaigns, edited my books, worked on my movies, even painted houses with me. Her imprint is on all that I've done. Why am I retiring? When I know there's still much I could accomplish, one reason is just not that much fun anymore. But the bigger reason, Karen asked me to spend more time with her. It simply became time to quit. Thank you all for being part of my life. I treasure these 22 years and what I've been able to do and the relationships I've developed. I leave you, especially freshmen, with some advice. Build relationships. Keep your word. Remember who sent you here, and for heaven's sake, don't ever say, would so-and-so yield for a question?
I'm not done.
Regarding your speeches, let me repeat one more time. You'll never get this one. Be brief, be to the point, tell a story if you can. I don't want to burst your bubbles, but droning on is not effective. Nobody's listening. Oh, by the way, if you do want to know the story, my book, End of Session, will be coming out soon. As a teacher, I started each of my classes by walking in and saying, "What are you here for?" And they would say, "To learn." And I would say, "And to help me take another step down the road to my eventual job as a," and my students would shout, "Walmart greeter." So thank you all. If you happen by the Litchfield Walmart, you can pause, point at me and say, "There he is, the last Eisenhower Republican. He tried to do what he thought was right.